but the revolution is also peaceful and full of love. And so there's so many people who are like meditating for world peace and choosing love instead of fear and all kinds of everything that is also revolutionary, but it's not necessarily going to always be burning things to the ground. And so there's just expect more of that over these next few months. And I don't know. Okay, now I'm at the point in my out of my notes where I'm gonna talk about what's been happening. So I'm gonna start. This is my downloads about the Midnight Diner and all the things that have been happening over the past literally 5 days. The reasons I've been crying. We're gonna get into those. So, but I want to start this off first with my little story about Sedona, Arizona. So back in 2021, because I had my awakening in 2020, and when 2021 rolled around, I was in this really itchy phase of like, I thought more stuff was going to be happening. I thought I was going to be online or my superpowers were going to be like, I just had all these human expectations of like, you know, escaping my suffering, and I'll have my connections to my spirit guides or whatever, like everything. So I was in this just like, and I thought there was a time, it was in April of 2021, and I got to this place where I kind of snapped and like lost my shit for real. And I packed a bag. It's not that I blacked out, but like I was kind of just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just put stuff in a bag, like clothes, toiletries, whatever. And I drove to Arizona. I drove to Sedona. I didn't tell my boss. I didn't do anything. I just fucking left. And because I knew I had to just get out of my apartment. I had to get out because I was living in Idaho at the time, in a very small town kind of across the mountains from Jackson, Wyoming. And I just drove, and it was a 14-hour trip. So like I had to stop overnight and, you know, spend that, whatever. So I get to Sedona, and I knew what I wanted to do was like take some hikes around like the vortex trails and stuff. And so I was just kind of doing my research and figuring out which ones I wanted to do, because I was only going to be gone for a few days. And I did eventually tell my boss. I was like, so I don't know what, I think I told her I was I was like, oh, I'm not feeling good or something, but she was freaking out because she knew something was wrong with me because I was acting really weird over text. And so she had apparently driven by my house, because I was trying to just tell her I was sick and that I wasn't coming into work, but she was like, I drove by your apartment and your car wasn't there. Are you alive? And I was like, oh shit, I like really, I never think that I affect people. I don't, you know, I just don't think people really. So again, learning that I actually am loved and people care about me kind of thing was just still sort of a new thing or whatever. So anyway, I told her, I don't even know if I told her where I was. I just said I needed to take a trip, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I get to Sedona, and I'm doing my research, and apparently on one of these trails, there was a guy that was known to give out rocks, hearts chiseled out of the red rocks. And he would talk to people, and he's just known it. I called him the heart guy. I don't know what everyone actually refers to him as, because again, this is kind of like a very fuzzy memory. And so I was reading about this guy, and I was like, oh, because he comes, you know, around 10 a.m. to the specific trail, whatever. And I was like, oh, I won't see him because that doesn't happen to me. That's really cool that he does that, but there's no way I'm gonna find him, whatever. And so, because again, I got up later than that, and so I knew I was just gonna miss him altogether. So I was crawling up one of these trails and scrambling up the rocks, and all of a sudden this guy comes over and he starts talking to me, and I'm wearing a tank top that says male tears. I was in a mood. I was in a phase. And so he starts talking to me, and it's one of those things where if you've ever lived in a city and all those people that have petitions and they want you to sign them, and they come up and they have their spiel and they talk really fast, and you're just like, what the fuck, go away kind of thing. So he was doing kind of that. But he was smiling, and so he was talking fast because it was a spiel, but it was a love spiel. And so I don't remember the words he was using, but I was like, this is heart. I was like glitching out. I was like, and he handed me a fucking heart. And I was like, it happened to me. a good thing, like felt like a miracle to me, and it was a miracle. That's the thing. Like, and Shay and I actually talked about this in our last podcast for Sultry Circus. It's like these things are miracles, and we have a tendency to either not notice them or write them off as like, oh well, it was a coincidence, or you know, it's that can't be a miracle because a miracle has to look like such and such or whatever. And this was my first miracle that I actually was able to recognize and to be so grateful for. And then after I left his bed, he was so nice, and I could tell that whatever he was talking about, again, I don't remember the words, but then I was like, oh yeah, like the awakening, the ascension. I can't remember what my response was. And because I had responded like that, he was like, he lit up. He was like, yeah. And then we like talked a little bit, because I'm sure he gets met with like scorn and derision and like all kinds of everything, and probably some love or whatever, but he's just out there every day or however much he can do, and he's handing out these hearts, and I'm like experiencing my first miracle, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. And so I scramble up the rest of the way to sit under the juniper tree, because the more gnarled the juniper trees are, that's where the vortex energies are the strongest. And so I sat under this really gnarled juniper tree and just kind of contemplated everything that was happening. And it wasn't like that made everything great. I still felt like shit. I mean, like when I went back and stuff, I had a lot more to go through, and you know, I was still angry and whatever. But opening myself to that frequency of love and miracles, and like life is good things can happen to you, and just changing my whole perspective and belief systems around that kind of thing. This was the turning point. And so I keep this with me because the choices we make right now are more important than ever. Where we put our focus is more important than ever. And if you focus on the bad stuff and everything that is just, you know, all the narratives that try to keep you looping in fear and shame and guilt, all of that stuff, you can choose that, or you can choose to be in love. And I'm not saying every day has to be perfect. Like I said, I've just spent 5 days crying my eyes out and feeling really bad. But there, at the same time, there is a buoyancy in me, because I know that whatever has been happening, we're trending towards good. We are trending towards love. We're reaching that critical mass of people who have chosen love and are tipping the balance in favor, and we are all going to be in an amazing future. And like I said, it's not over. The through part of the only way out is through, that is not over, but we are going to be okay. And so the thing that has been happening, in the middle of all this eclipse stuff and helping people that weren't ready to be helped and meeting me with all kinds of bullshit, I had this download that the Midnight Diner was actually going to be a diner, like a real, you know, like a farm to table diner. And I was so excited that I got to live out here, because I was like, I'm going to be able to do all this regenerative farming and wildlife restoration, and I'm going to be able to get this garden going, and everything is going to happen. I'm going to raise, you know, whatever livestock I need to get to like provide this like farm to table Midnight Diner. And it's going to be this incredible way to meet people and be, so I talk about being an Akashic Records keeper in human form. And what I love to do is be with people in like short doses, like a diner thing. Like if I'm running this diner and travelers come in, and I get to kind of be my Akashic Records self and clear out some of their, like, you know, be the trash goddess and clear out their energy and like say these cool, you know, things about the cosmos that open up their perspective. And like I get so many more of them because they're going to be coming in to this Midnight Diner. I was just like, this download, it just felt incredible. I was like flying high, so fucking high. I was like, yes. And then a few days later, I got some news. It was actually really good. I have talked before a little bit on the stream about how I have been in this family lawsuit since July of 2022. It's been pretty fun and bullshitty. But the lawsuit is over. We have settled everything. There was a mediation earlier this past week that I did not go to because I had a dream that my grandmother told me not to go, and so I was a little afraid to tell my mom. But I did. I was like, I'm not gonna go, and so I didn't do that. In fact, I'm glad I didn't go because it was 14 hours, and at the end of it, it was decided that my uncles get this place where I'm currently living, the Midnight Diner, and I have 90 days to exit the premises, and I did not see that coming. I was not on my bingo card at all. This was a blow that I just was not prepared for it. I was prepared for a lot of things, you know, but this was not one of them. And so so I had that night to process this, and I, because I am used to upheaval and insane shit happening like this, I was able to move through it pretty well, because it's actually kind of hilarious because Shay and I had just recorded this episode where we get to keep the nice things. And in fact, my last stream was called Don't Look Back. It's like we don't look back on those old stories about not being able to keep the nice things. We get to keep them this time around. And here I am losing the nice thing. And so I was like, I didn't know what to do. And so because I'm so used to upheaval and because I'm used to doing all this stuff, and I was like, I was pretty devastated. Obviously I was crying, you know, doing all the things. And but there is this, again, this buoyancy in me where I know that even though I'm not apparently able to keep this nice thing, I know because of all of this, this has been the journey from here to now, or from there to now. It has shown me that anything that gets taken away from me is replaced with even more amazingness. And so it was really, really hard to process this loss, because, I mean, talk about a Virgo South Node eclipse. Like, this was the ending to end all endings. I didn't see a way forward, that, you know, and finally I realized, I was like, oh, I am the Midnight Diner. It doesn't matter. I'm both the pirate ship and the Midnight Diner. I wherever I go, that's where my legacy goes. And it is fucking devastating to lose all of the shit that I just did here. Like this rock garden, you know, I mean, I just did this with my brother. Like I planted a bunch of flowers around my house. Like I have this, you know, beautiful garden that we were going to expand next year, and he was going to have a whole spot in the barn out here where he was going to set up some tools in his own little shop and help me do some, you know, the repairs and all the trail maintenance. Like, we had so many plans, and I was so excited because I can breathe here. When I lived at the pirate ship, or you know, previously where I was living, you know, in like apartments and stuff, apartment living became like this too small suit, and I was like, and then I got to upgrade to the pirate ship. So even though I was devastated that I had to move back to my hometown and live in this fucking, you know, town I didn't want to live in, this house that was falling apart, it was a huge upgrade. I could feel as soon as I moved into the pirate ship that my wings got to unfold and expand, and I could breathe there too. And yeah, it was really hard to live there because it's cold in the winter and it's hot in the summer and it's humid and it's kind of moldy, you know, and the windows are not attached to the walls all the time, you know, and it's really hard to live there. But still, when I lived there, that consciousness of that house was just so beautiful, and she welcomed me in, and I felt like I was at home. And then I upgraded to this place, this Midnight Diner place, and I have felt so cozy and everything. You know, the pirate ship is it's like a jungle out there. It's overgrown. It hasn't been taken care of. You know, the barns are falling in, you know, everything is it's hard for me to breathe out there. So when I got here, I felt like I was home. Like this was my home, you know, and I didn't think I was ever going to have to leave it. I was like, wow, the first time I've ever felt like I'm putting down roots. And it's an incredible feeling because I've never done that. I've been a nomad most of my life. I spend like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 years in a place before I move to the next thing. And I've been wanting roots, and this has just felt like I found myself here. I've had all these activations. I was actually sitting here in the rock garden when I got the news that I had 90 days to live here, and I couldn't, and the guardian is like right right there. I'm like looking right at him. I couldn't even look at him. I was like, I have to give up the guardian. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. Oh, anyway, I've done the crying. I thought I wasn't gonna cry, but that's thank you, Shay. You're so beautiful. I love you. So I couldn't even. I couldn't even look at the guardian. It was weird. Like the hardest thing for me to give up or like leave, you know, being the guardian. And again, my rock garden, like I feel so at home here in this rock garden, and I love sitting here. And anyway, it was a lot, but I did realize that I am the Midnight Diner. And so what I'm going to be doing is moving back into the pirate ship, and I'm not fucking looking forward to it. Okay. I'm not looking forward to being in a place where I didn't feel like I could breathe, kind of thing, but it will be temporary because my mom and I have talked, and we're part of this lawsuit settling kind of whatever the fuck has happened. We need to sell another property. It's part of this trust, whatever, long story, but basically we're going to have just enough money to build some sort of like home kit, whatever, out at the pirate ship that will be fresh. I'll get a pole barn, and I will get a smaller, but whatever, a nice, fresh, sealed, you know, energy efficient home. And it's not necessarily my dream home, because I have these dreams of like, you know, earth friendly materials, and like kind of part of it is inside the ground, you know, and part of it is out, you know, so I have like, I have visions of my perfect home, but this again will be an upgrade. It will be a home that, because honestly, you know, the furnace is about to go out here, you know, and maybe I'm being protected. I actually, Shay was the one who told me. She was like, I think maybe you're being protected from something, which I hadn't even thought about. And then I started thinking about how, yeah, the furnace is going to go out, and you know, a whole lot of other things. This house definitely has some things that are a lot to repair, and it would be better to start fresh. And that is what this is. This is a fresh start. This is me moving into something that is all my own. And every time I dream about ancestral purging and all the ancestral karma that I have been, you know, working through as part of my mission here on this earth, the dreams have always been centered here. And so when I lived here, I was like, oh, cool, I've cleared out everything and whatever. Nope, haven't cleared out everything. It is me that needs to be cleared now from here, because I have done my work. I have peeled away from those old karmic storylines. And I am starting something fresh. And apparently it's going to be at the pirate ship, which is interesting anyway, because like that's where I started this journey to a certain extent. Like I discovered my pirate queen self, and that's why I named the pirate ship, because, you know, a pirate queen lives in a pirate ship. And then this Midnight Diner came online. And so now it's like I'm threading, like weaving something. Like I started it there, I came here, I have this energy point here, I've done some things here, and then I'm going back to this other place. And honestly, it makes more sense for the diner to be out there anyway, because it's way closer to the interstate. It's like a mile from the interstate, and there's all kinds of, like, we just built a Chick-fil-A and a Uranus fudge shop. It's hard for me to say Uranus because I keep saying Uranus, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's clearly, you know, I knew all of these things were going to be drawing more people into this area, and we're actually somebody's building a dispensary in this town, in the Midnight Diner town, which is just across the border from the pirate ship. Anyway, it's a few miles away. So again, lots of people are going to be coming here. And so it makes sense that whenever because again, this is not going to be moving quickly. This is the Lemuria time. It takes the time it takes, but the Midnight Diner is going to become the Midnight Diner in time. Whatever I get to do, I'm starting fresh, and that's where I get to do it. And so I moved through all of that on my own the day that I discovered the news. And the next day, my brother, who had just helped me clear all these things out and do all this work, he has poured time, money, energy, just believed in me, believed in my vision. Even though he doesn't always understand what I'm saying, he believes in me, and he's open-minded, and he's done so much. And we shared a dream here, and I was more the worst part of this for me was looking for, oh my gosh, 111:17 on the timer right now. Oh my god. The worst part for me was anticipating breaking the news to him, because he has been burned before. That's one of the things he kept asking me as we were starting all these projects. He was like, "Are you sure you're going to be here?" Because he knew about the lawsuit and whatever. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be here." Like, it felt like this was my place. And I had zero doubts that this was going to be my place forever. And so he believed me, obviously, because I believed myself. And so I was, oh man, it was harder for me to face that than it was my own upheaval, because oh God, oh, it just hurts. It hurts the heart. And so, I went through the whole thing. I was like, he's never going to believe another word I say. He's not going to believe in me anymore. I mean, I knew he would be nice to me. He's always nice to me. I'm not friends with assholes, you know? Like, he's a good fucking man, you know? So I knew he wasn't going to be a jerk to me. But I knew this was going to, he's been burned before with helping people who like abandon his projects and, you know, neglect it. You know, he's just been burned before by giving a lot and receiving like negative in return. And so we came over the next day because we were gonna harvest the rest of the garden. Hilariously, I had all these sweet potato vines, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have sweet potatoes coming out of my ears. And I had zero sweet potatoes. Apparently the soil had too much nitrogen, so we were trying to pull up stuff, and he was like, there's no sweet potato. I don't know why that's so funny, but there was no sweet potatoes. We did get some squash. Got a whole lot of squash to make squash soup out of. I'm really excited about that. Anyway, that's besides the point. So he was coming over to do that. And so he knew something was wrong as soon as he got here, and he was like, before we do the garden, let's just have some tea. Let's just, you know, hang out. And, oh man. I had to reach in, grab his precious little heart, and I crushed it. And it was the worst thing I've ever had to do. And like I knew, he was nice to me. I saw the light go out in his eyes, and all he did was give me a hug. And I just cried, and I was like, I want to give up. And he was like, don't you dare. And we just held on to each other while the dream died and the ashes were just here. And all that was left was love, because we had chosen love. Like, he could have abandoned me. I was expecting abandonment. I was expecting, you know, just like I said, I would have understood. That's the thing. Like, I was not going to hold any of this against him. You know, and he didn't do that. He stayed with me. We both cried. And then we went into the garden to like put our hands in the earth. And, you know, I've started to, I grew my own pot plant this year, and he helped me with that, obviously, because he's helped me with fucking everything. And we harvested, you know, we call her Olive because she was a little scrawny when she first got into the, when she first got here. But she grew into this amazing plant. And obviously you're not supposed to smoke green weed. You dry it, you do your thing. But he was like, you know what? We're just going to take a little bud and do our best. And we're just going to, it was like a little ritual. And we did smoke it a little bit. It worked. It did work a little, but it was more like not about getting high. It was more about like the ritual of choosing to move forward and not abandon what we had given each other. And the thing with this whole love stuff is that when we had that moment of everything was collapsing and everything was ash, I could feel the earth because he had given me, he'd chosen to give me unconditional love. And you don't experience that I have not experienced that. It's just so rare. And it was just it was never a question in his mind. Of course he was going to give me unconditional love. And here I was with all the programs thinking that I didn't deserve it, I wouldn't get it, everything. And that's what I was given, was unconditional love. And as we were kind of sitting there, crying and whatever, I could feel the earth here. And I've described the energy out here before as like this fresh, clear spring water energy. And it's just so gentle and loving and joyful and beautiful. And it just cleanses with great gentleness any hurt, any heartbreak, anything. And I could feel her energy rising up to meet us both. And I could feel the cleansing of all the shit that I've been holding on to, all the programs of abandonment, all the poison that had been in this wound that I didn't realize I was still carrying. And it was such a healing moment for me. And I did feel like an open, raw wound later that night, like as I was sitting here, I just felt like an open, raw wound. But it was a wound that had been flushed of poison and could finally heal. And it was such a gift. And I felt so rich. Like I can't even describe. It was like, all the fears about scarcity and all the things that I've talked about in all of my streams that I've been cleansing out and clearing out about, like the scarcity and all kinds of stuff. It was like that just got no more. I didn't even have any worries or fears or anxiety anymore. I just felt like the richest person on earth because what I had was love, and it changes everything. And I talked about my experience with the Akashic Records and feeling the love that like literally made me believe in God. And this was the same. It was similar. It wasn't the same because this was coming from a person. It was like this unconditional love was being filtered through a person. And the wind is coming through. It's like the winds of change, So it just feels like everything has changed now. And I can start fresh. And whatever I am building, however I am going to do it, I know that I am going to be met with so much support and everything that I need. And this little guy is my reminder that everything is going to be okay. And it sucks right now. Like even though I am in a good spot and I feel okay, and I have this buoyancy and the trust that the future is going to be great, because I know that it is. Every so often I'll get reminded that I gotta leave this place, and my heart twists, and it's weird because I feel nauseated in my heart area. It's like heart sick. It's like this weird feeling. So, and yeah, like I said, I've been crying, a lot on and off, but the choices between choosing fear and love, like you choose love. It's worth it. It makes a difference. This is how we move forward, and more people are doing that. How do you, this kind of thing happens to me first. There are those of us who pre-wave these kinds of things to show other people that it's possible to move through this and to have good things on the other side. I had nothing when this was my first little thing. Look at all I had. I mean, I have given up so many things. My life has been insane. Like, I've been through some crazy shit and given up some things that I really didn't want to give up. And every single time, the universe has given me more in return. And so I am here to be the lighthouse, to show you that it's okay to keep your heart open after disaster, after heartbreak, after upheaval, after everything. And it's going to be okay. The other thing about this is there's no more certainty. I was so certain I was going to be here forever. And the energy we are moving into in 2027 that we are getting a taste test of right now with the nodal axis, I've been talking about this in almost every stream, it's showing us that there is no more certainty. So this is an example of how you move through the no more certainty. I don't know what's going to happen. I literally don't have the first clue of what the next steps are going to be. We're about to have an Aries full moon in a couple days, and so every lunation brings in something new to experience, to download, to make sense of, to chew on. You know, something happens every lunation. So whatever happens in the next few days or the next couple of weeks, you know, between now and my next stream, I'm sure that I will get more context on some of these things. But for now, I'm just sitting in uncertainty, and it's okay. You can do it too. And come back to the Midnight Diner. Every time I stream, I will be the lighthouse for you, and I will give you love, and it's unconditional. Unconditional love just allows, you know, it's fine. I don't know how to, once you experience it, you know what I'm talking about. So those of us who've been through a spiritual awakening and have experienced the unconditional love of God, we know what is possible through love. So what's love got to do with it? Fucking everything, bitch. Fucking everything. So you're gonna be okay. Everything's all right. I'm sending you lots of love and hugs. It's gonna be intense. A lot of this stuff is gonna just be, you don't think you're gonna make it, but you're gonna make it. And I'm just gonna give you one last hug, and I'm gonna end the stream, but come back to the Midnight Diner, and we're all gonna make it through this. It's gonna be okay. KK out.